Hi, everyone. Welcome to my story and following the journey I'm on. I'm hoping that you will have all tuned into the song I have chosen as my start. The music relates to me and adds a layer of depth to what is being said. For the beginning, I have chosen the song The Sounds of Silence, sung by Disturbed. Before I begin, I just wanted to just point out a few things. So, this is the book I'm reading from. Um, I'm not promoting the book, I'm promoting the story that's in the book. This only tells half the story, actually. And although I will be writing the next part of it, um, I just wanted to present it differently. And so it can be consistent from the beginning right until I'm finished. And by doing that, I've come up with doing the videos. So that it just flows instead of writing another book and then trying to get it out there. Um, so that's why I've chosen this route and to do it this way. You are looking at it backwards in there, but it is called Truth in the Spirit. Hidden up here and behind, you'll see it very lightly. There's a picture of a dove. It has significance, and you'll be hearing about that later. And the other picture I have here, and that's my sister Sandy. This is the picture I keep beside me on my workstation, which is in the kitchen. Um, and she's the biggest part of this whole thing, this whole journey, a big part of this whole journey. So now I'm ready. Let's begin. Oh, and by the way, this is not going to be perfect. So you got to expect that before we get started. I will begin with the opening notes and the introduction that's in the book. So here we go. This is a true story. It is about the Spirit coming to me and presenting to me knowledge about the Spirit and the Holy Spirit. I am the messenger, and the message is all about the Spirit. There are people of today that have seen me in a vision, and I have also seen them. One of these people appeared twice and wears the robe of a monk. I believe that they are aware of me and waiting for this message. It became very noticeable around March, April of 2010 that something was happening as I felt bombarded with the activity of spirits, and it was not going away. I was incredibly scared because I didn't know what was happening. There were visually two spirits that I could identify with, and that was my sister Sandy, who passed away when she was 8, and my cat I called Kitty. I have seen my sister more than once, but this one time after I turned her away, I realized what a gift it was to see her. This was the turning point of my acceptance, and from this point forward, I watched to learn more and to document. The first 5 years of the book, I was shown the spirit and how I was dealing with it. When I reread the first part, I can observe the non clarity as I had written it, not knowing fully the reason why I was writing it. I just knew it needed to be documented. The first part I was my the first part one was my introduction to the spirit. I was trying to put some type of reasoning into what was being shown, and in doing this, I was being rational and observant. I was searching for truth. After completing the first part, I had the understanding of what was presented was all that was to be said, and have left it this way, as if I had finished the manuscript. But more continued to develop that needed to be documented. It seemed the more I questioned, the more I was given. Part two is about my son, who I learned was named Jordan. And I'll spell that for you. Jordan. Never heard of it before. I did not know it existed, as I had a miscarriage before 3 months of pregnancy. This part describes in detail our incredible encounter. On November 13th, 2015, Jordan came to me and said, "Mother, I want to take you with me to the other side." I have described in detail this experience and visiting the other side. Inconceivable, but true. Again, I thought I had completed the book, but then came part 3. This part is what I refer to as my spiritual awakening. It tells of a weekend session I was quickly brought to and what I saw during my second ever meditation session. This happening involved the Holy Spirit. I have identified this spirit as holy by the way she came to me. There was also a clear message which I believe to be the message sent from God that needs to be shared. It was after this session that I realized what was given over these 6 years was more than just seeing spirits. It was all in preparation for the end of the manuscript. The last part 4 summarizes what I learned through my experiences about my intended plan and my personal gift. I have learned so much about the Spirit and also our relationship to the Spirit. One of my weaknesses is language, and the last person to consider writing a manuscript would be me. So please be patient and tolerant for those that have a good knowledge in this area. Now I will begin the introduction. What would you do if you woke in bed one night and saw a figure in your presence? A dark clothed human figure in your bedroom. He is standing at the end of the bed looking at you. A person standing in your space of privacy, a place where you go for relaxation and having that feeling of security, a place you only share with those you trust, a sanctuary retreat. Then, after a wave of shock that someone is in your room and in hesitation of what might happen next, it disappears. It dissipates right before your eyes. It literally goes away. From the onset of fearing for your life and that there is an intruder in your room to a totally different situation. What was that? What just happened? Think about what would you do? Shake it off as a dream? Would you scream? Would you go back to sleep right away? Would you be frightened? Would you consider telling anyone? Would you call out to a trusted person? Just the thought of a dark human figure in your presence in your bedroom would alert you to the unthinkable situation. Would you be nervous and cautious and wonder if it might come back? All these questions and more stung me to the point of fear. Not only fear, but it brought back memory relapses as a child going to bed and having the same feelings of fear. What did I do? Because it did happen to me and continues to this day. But got lost here. It was one of a few occurrences at that time, but one of the first that I was dealing with. I lay quietly and watched this so-called intruder in my bedroom, thinking it was a human, and waited to see what move he was going to take next. I didn't speak or move, just lay there watching. My heart was racing with fear, and my eyes were wide open, fixed on him. My security was the blanket which covered me, something between me and this intruder. Then it dissolved. I know I just saw something, and now it just disappeared. There was a kind of a relief that I didn't have to deal with a human intruder, but at the same time, I did see something out of the ordinary, and it has happened before. The story that I tell is about me and my encounters with the Spirit. After 5 years of knowingly being subjected to this phenomenon, it's time to openly discuss this as I now acknowledge it as being part of my life. My story on this topic is not an out of the normal subject when mentioning the word paranormal. Today we hear many stories from all over the world about encounters with ghosts and spirits. They're one of the same to me. The unexplained phenomenon. Some of you may be questioning my mental state, as I have also done, but I do know for sure that I'm as sane as the next person, and it will be evident by the end of my writing that I'm encountering what I'm encountering has nothing to do with my mental state, but are spirits that I'm connected with. Spirits do exist, and I'm one of the people that have a connection to their unknown identities, or whatever you want to call it. How do you tell an incredible story about things that I visually see to strangers? A topic that you or even I don't understand or have any explanation, for I'm in a standalone position, trying to detail all that has happened. Maybe after openly telling about my experience, more people will come forward with untold stories. Stories that lay dormant because no one would believe what they just experienced. Stories that are taken to the grave because they didn't understand what was happening and therefore no one else would understand or even think them crazy. Yes, I'm putting a lot on the line. My credibility, my livelihood, my thoughts, my secrets, my whole life. I am exposing so much of me that it scares me more than what I'm encountering. I'm not the type of person who looks for drama or exposure. I'm the opposite of this. I'm shy, somewhat reclusive, reserved, not one that wants to be noticed. A silent leader is what I like to describe myself as being. One who can walk my own path in life the way I want it to go, but without telling the world that I'm doing or going to do. As my son once said at the age of 7, I'm my own person, and I personally like who I am. I'm not out for approval or any type of glory. I just want to tell my story without having fingers pointed at, without being criticized to one's beliefs. I'm here to open doors. If I'm here to open doors, then so be it. If not, then continue with your own life. For me personally, this all needs to be in the open so I can have some peace of mind. It needs to be said. I'm hoping that what I have to say will open your mind about a phenomenal beyond your everyday life, a subject based on my own personal experiences. I've encountered many different spirits in many different shapes, forms, sizes, and presentations. Young children to old people. Some float, some stand, some move. Some are characters on their own. Some I've recognized seeing more than once, even months later. Some I can relate to or know who I'm seeing. Many, many, many more I cannot relate to. There are animals as well as humans, and everything and even things I can't explain what it was. It happens frequently. I have learned how to cope with these situations. I've learned how to overcome my fears and accept the unknown. I've learned how to open my senses and see with my own eyes this puzzling phenomenon. I've learned so much that I need to share. Sharing stories of my encounters as well as my personal thoughts. I'm still trying to digest and organize all of these encounters. They are too numerous to mention, but those that happened when I first discovered what I needed to do to see them and have so much fear are the ones that stand out, and which I'll describe in more detail compared to today's occurrences. I've witnessed seeing my sister on different occasions. She passed away at the age of 8. Many in my community will remember her death, as a sadness comes over a small town when a child dies. This community was very supportive. This encounter with my sister is an incredible occurrence, but that first time it happened, I turned away in fright. When I think of it, the experience of encountering a loved one that has left this physical world is something that many people would give a limb to have, to actually connect with their loved one just one more time. In the following pages, I'll describe my encounters to you. I'll bring you through my experiences of when they first started, and we'll try to add details of what I'm seeing, and for some of the encounters, I'm able to identify them, as well as in some of the cases, how I've made the connection. These brief encounters that continue to happen even today are very real. I consider them to be spiritual encounters. I have been having encounters with spirits for some time now, to the point where it is happening on a regular basis. Very few weeks will go by when I'm not experiencing an encounter, and this has been ongoing for over 5 years. Previous to this, there had been encounters, but not regularly. The encounter could be visually seen, occasionally audio, and even smell has come into notice. In today's world, it is becoming well received and accepted that there is life after death. In the past, it would have been a subject not to be discussed, or you would become, in the eyes of the public, a witch and put to death. I have a few reasons as to why I am openly talking about my experiences. The most important reason is to voice that I'm actually experiencing these phenomena and that it's ongoing. I have only told a few select people about what has been happening, and it will be good for me to tell my family and other friends. I have only recently, Thanksgiving weekend in 2013, told my mother and my brother. I have shared with my son, but only because I had seen some of his fears similar to some of mine when he had an experience at his dad's house. And after confiding in me, I felt it was a good time to talk about what his mother was going through. I have also discussed with my daughter, but not to the extent what she will read. My mother is the one I've held back on not sharing with. The reasoning is that I don't feel I could explain it in a way that would not make her nervous. To tell her my experiences from my mouth, I think she would not want to be around me for fear of herself, fear of the unknown, or even fear of her encountering something that might be around me. Not wanting to deal with it as it is not wanting to deal with it, as it really is something scary when you are confronted with it. I suspect reading about it will be interesting, but living with it, it is a total different experience. For those reasons, I have kept it from my mom, and as I tell this story to all to grasp, it will give you all the same understanding at the same time, portrayed through my eyes. I also like the idea of having a baseline. Each person is so different with so many different personalities and perspectives that that at that that at the very least this book can provide a baseline for all further discussions, whether with me or amongst each other. There has been so many times that I would have liked to have shared some of my experiences, but have kept a tight lip. Another reason, which is more personal, and that is to voice that I'm actually experiencing and knowingly acknowledge the spirit of my deceased sister, my most highly regarded of these encounters, which I wished I could go back and relive the situation because I did not recognize it was her until after the fact and turned her away. This occurrence was actually a turning point for me. Just knowing that her spirit is around and I have witnessed her and others is an unbelievable experience to share. Just think of it. I have firsthand experiences with spirits that have left our physical world but still visit. It actually was a relief to me to acknowledge familiarity because being visited by those who you don't know and seeing them in many shapes and forms is hard to accept, very frightening and hard to deal with experiences with not only humans but animals and other unexplained. I also want to put my experiences in writing and document with observations what I'm seeing, as I search for connections or looking to compare or differentiate these experiences. I have made some incredible connections which I will share. The least of my reasons is for personal gain. It may it may own in my own words, I'm the least person to write a book. For me to write a book would be comparable to giving an unknown person a song and ask them to sing it for the first time in front of a huge audience. You just can't expect good writing skills when treading into unfamiliar territory. Believe me, if I could get out of writing this story, I would, as I am spending many unavailable hours, not including constantly thinking about it. I guess in one sense, I need to get this out to clear my head. I had at one time approached a good friend's daughter who writes. I had to divulge the topic, and she suggested that I needed to write it, which I'm sure is the right thing to do. How could I expect another to write about my thoughts and describe my feelings and visions? I have put thought into this, and I hope to do the following. To give a statement of what has been happening, it has been a steady stream of occurrences in the past 5 years. I initially tried to start writing this a few years ago when I put many thoughts and experiences down, all needing sorted out. No easy task at hand to take those experiences and describe in detail, including firsthand thoughts and opinions. I also want to give some insight to my background and past, as this is a major part of who I am and what has led into today. To include what life was like growing up and to share some memories, some of which were painful, and to talk about my family and influences. Giving to the reader what I feel is necessary to describe who I am and where I'm at. At some point, I will focus on these experiences that I have connected to a source, meaning that I recognize who they are and how they ended up visiting me. I will also review and provide my own opinion, which I've gathered over the time involved. It is an incredible, unknown, and scary journey that I've been led into. The only thing that keeps my mind at rest or sanity is knowing that I have my sister visiting me in spirit, a familiar spirit, and in hopes that I'll have another memorable occurrence at another time to look forward to. I'm also convinced there is life after death, that there is a spiritual world, and it does interact with our being. Maybe we should be embracing these shared experiences. So that ends my notes and introduction. Stay tuned for chapter 1 in a week's time, I hope. Thanks, everyone.